Okay, hello everyone, Mr. K here again. Those of you who are on e-learning for this, it's probably going to be quite as interactive, but you'll get the idea, and I'll kind of walk you through the PowerPoint and you'll be able to complete the assignment. So we're going to talk about safety walks and shop inspections today, and there's a few reasons why we're talking about it. Your eyes might be rolling right now, thinking how boring this is going to be. I really blast through it. Try not to let you fall asleep, and got a lot of pictures and that type of thing. And also this is more of an interactive assignment where if you're here, you'll actually be going through the shop, trying to find safety issues, that type of stuff. So I don't think it'll be too bad. Not as bad as it sounds anyway. Okay, so the reason why we're talking about this, let me jump to my preview slide on my other screen. A few reasons why we're talking about it. One of the biggest reasons is this is just pushed hard in industry, whether it be a 3-bay mechanic shop or all the way up to, General Electric factory, Whirlpool factory that makes refrigerators, Chrysler, Chevy, whatever it may be, assembly lines. It's pushed hard, and you may say, well, geez, I don't feel like that's really pushed that hard at a 3-bay mechanic shop in Parker, Vermilion County. And you might be surprised even if you work at one and it's not pushed hard. I wouldn't be surprised if it is soon, because insurance companies are starting to crack down on this. And even there's a shop that's the owner works in the shop. I'm not going to name them off, but they're in, again, Parker, Vermilion County. The owner owns the shop, he works in it, and he has one part-time employee that helps him out about 20 hours a week. And other than that, he is it. And he is big on this safety stuff because his insurance company can walk in at any time. And if they find violations, then they start raising his rates. So he's told me about a few issues he's had, close calls. So it's a big deal even to small shops. So that's why we're going through it. Also, this class is, being this class has a dual credit section for IB Tech. This is something they push pretty hard to. All right. So I kind of already went over this, but places of all shapes, sizes use safety walks and safety talks and however you want to roll with it. I've personally been through them at construction sites because of some other jobs I've had. I've been through them at construction sites with inspectors, been through them with at airports, several airports I've worked at where I worked on aircraft, been through them at Chrysler. And I just threw Alsop Chevrolet's symbol on there because I know they're big on safety and tidiness and all that type of stuff too. So, okay. So the main goals of safety walk is you want to sit down before you actually conduct it. And this more applies to a big factory or something huge, but we're just kind of go through the same guidelines and we're just going to use them for our shop. You want to kind of talk about what you're inspecting, what your goal is, what you're looking for. You want to once you actually start it, you want to locate issues, document anything that needs to be fixed, and then recommend how to avoid the same problem in the future. Okay. I'd like you to watch this video. The link is right there here in the presentation. If you'd rather not copy and paste the link, or it's easier for you, you can just search that title right above. That's hazard identification, the safety inspection. So watch that video at this time and then move on in the presentation. All right, so on the pre-walk discussion, we're going to discuss what types of things you're looking for, and that's going to play into what type of place are you in. Are you in an assembly line in an automotive factory or something else? Are you in a mechanic shop? Are you at a construction site? Talk to some people there. What are their complaints? Okay, you guys know when you're completing your assignment, there's going to be a section on there. What do you think? I mean, you've worked in the shop. What do you feel is unsafe? What do you think we get better at? And in a place like this, what do you expect would be wrong? I'll tell you, just as an example, in a mechanic shop, probably the worst thing I see, or what I see all the time when I go into other people's mechanic shops, is trip hazards. They're everywhere. Someone's using the tire machine and they go to lunch, they leave tires across the floor. They don't stack them, they don't drag them up close to the machine by the wall, they leave tires across the floor. There's an extension cord across the floor. Instead of getting drop cords from the ceiling, there's air hoses across the floor. And to me, that's the biggest pain in the butt. Okay. So when you're locating issues on the walk, notice how fast I'm blasting through this. Okay, we're already almost halfway done with the presentation. Use all of your senses. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is, do you hear anything? You know, I put in here anything damaging to your hearing, but it could also be, do you hear something that's out of place? Do you hear a rattling? Do you hear screeching? Something, you know, a well-oiled machine that doesn't sound like it's well-oiled when it runs, and it may blow any second now. Do you hear a hydraulic pump that's whining real loud that sounds like it's about to blow? Do you see things cracked, broken, leaking? This is probably what most of you guys jump to. Well, I see that. I see a sharp edge over here. I see a trip hazard. I see oil leaking from that container. That's probably going to be the easiest for you. Do you smell anything that doesn't smell right? People forget this one. Electric motors, when the bearings go out on them and they start working harder than they need to, I guess the easiest way to put it, they start to smell a lot of times, and coils of wire heat up inside them, start burning off insulation, and you can smell it. Okay, it's going to start a fire eventually or blow a fuse, but don't be afraid to use that. You feel sharp edges, dangerous temperatures. This one's probably a little tougher. Probably don't use it as much, but you know, again, like I was talking about, if there's a machine running and it's safe, if it's safe to do so, and you walk up to it and you put the backside of your hand against it and it burns it or nearly burns it, that's probably not safe. Either there's something wrong with that machine, or if that's the way it's supposed to run, then there needs to be a sign there that says caution hot surface, or a heat guard over it, heat shield, so people don't burn themselves when they're working around it. Here I just throw some common issues up. These are by no means all of them, but there's just a few examples of things that I see a lot. A lot of them were things I saw when I took over this classroom. This would be one of them: extension cords that get frayed and the outer insulation is broken up, and then you're actually looking at the inner insulation of those wires that are exposed there. So that's not what you want. Same thing there, super common. There's the trip hazards I talked about. You see they kind of tried to do the right thing here with bright colored ramp that goes across the floor there over the hoses or over the electrical cords, but they didn't go all the way across, and they didn't do it for that one, and we've got this air hose laying here. This probably isn't as common in our shop particular. I think we only have we have two things in our shop that uses hydraulics. I think we have three things in our shop that uses hydraulic pressure. It has hydraulic hoses, but again, something to look for. You're going to see this on heavy machinery. You're going to see it in factories. By the way, for those of you who don't know, this is step one, I guess you'd say, or maybe step one is you see slight cracks, maybe like that. Step two is this. Step three is this eventually gets degraded enough to where hydraulic fluid starts shooting out of here. And when that gets to be, you might say, well, that's not a big problem. When that happens, I'll just shut the machine down and go get a new hose. That's great, except for when this starts shooting out of here, sometimes it's a foot away from an exhaust system on a motor and it immediately starts fire. Or that is a foot and a half to the left side of your face on like an excavator or a bobcat or skid steer, and you have to buck it up when it happens, because that's when the most pressure is on those hoses and that's when they're going to blow. And then all of a sudden that's shooting out 200-degree hydraulic fluid at the side of your neck or your face or at your eye or whatever it may be. So these things, when you see that, you got to replace them. This picture took me a minute, but this is another big thing that I've seen a lot. Okay. You got probably a 15-pound, maybe 10-pound wrench sitting right over these guys' heads. And they happen to be wearing hard hats. Most people don't. In industry, you just don't see it probably as much as you should. we don't wear them in here. Mechanics don't wear them that I've ever seen. But again, people leave stuff up high. The guy bumps against the shelf as he's getting something out from down here, and it falls right on top of him. So watch for stuff like that. Okay, emergency equipment that you can't get to is a big deal. This is another thing that I saw here. I don't know if you guys remember when we started class this year, our eye wash station was filled with lead wheel weights. So it was being used as a shelf for wheel weights. Okay, this is a similar incident here. Another thing is trash cans. People roll trash cans up against here. People put toolboxes in front of it, keep them free. If you need to use that, you get acid in your eyes, you need to use it right now. You don't need to use it 45 seconds from now after you drag the stuff out of the way. You need it right now. So keep that stuff free. I put this picture on here just for attention, but what I want to refer to here is spills, but this is actually a Morton salt. This is a real photo from a Morton salt plant that gave way. One of their storage areas gave way, the wall, and salt spilled all over these employees' vehicles. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, but this is what I'm talking about, spills, because it's just a slip. It's a slip hazard. And again, you see that all the time in mechanics shop. We know that. Flammability, right? Keep in mind, you may see unsafe practices too, not just, it looks like I need to fix my PowerPoint, not just items, okay? So this is obviously an unsafe practice. Looks like another unsafe practice, right? Although I do appreciate that they have the big forklift here and the little forklift there, you know, not the other way around. So at least they got that going for them. If you're not catching it, putting the safety sign up, standing on the railing, okay? All right. So document corrective action needed, note what the problems are and how to fix them. If you don't know how to fix them, don't lie. Just say you don't know how. And try to give multiple ways of how to fix them if you can. And don't be afraid of the cost of fixing them. If it's broken and it needs to be fixed or it's unsafe, it's unsafe. I mean, you're not going to get in trouble for recommending something that costs a ridiculous amount of money. If it makes it safer, it makes it safer. A company can always say, or I or the school can always say, well, that's just part of the risk in here. You know, we can't afford to do that right now. So be it, but at least point it out if you can. I'll give you guys an example of this. Our ventilation system in our shop is not very good. Okay, that's why we don't run cars in the shop. We drive them in, we shut them off, and we do our work to them. And then if we're gonna run them, we start them up and we drive them outside. We don't run them for a long period of time in the shop because our ventilation system is not that good. I'd love to have a new ventilation system put in, but that's really expensive. So we adapt. But can always recommend, always put that on the list. Okay, recommend ways to avoid future hazards. Again, be polite but direct. Don't beat around the bush, but don't just rip on the company or the school, whatever it is. Try to give multiple ways to stop a problem from occurring in the future if you can. So let me give an example of this real quick. The extension cord issue that you saw in a few slides ago, extension cord's frayed, okay. Identify the issue, boom, we found it. A frayed extension cord hanging on the wall, shouldn't be used, okay. The outer insulation's gone, okay. There you go, there's step one in the safety walk. Really it's step two because step one was talking about things you might find, but that's step two, okay. So we've identified it, and then corrective action needed for the extension cord, replace it or cut off the bad section and put in a new extension cord end. Okay, but get rid of the bad section is the point. How to avoid it in the future? Maybe don't use extension cords that are like that. Use drop cords that hang down from the ceiling, or have a policy like when I worked at Duncan Aviation, you can never roll a toolbox or a cart or anything over a cord or an air hose. You always ask someone to help you pick up the air hose or pick up the extension cord so you can roll your toolbox under it so you don't ruin that stuff. It lasts a lot longer. There you go. So just some examples how you correct stuff. If you don't know, don't lie. Again, And again, don't be afraid of the cost. If you think you got a good idea or way to make it safer, just say so. Let them worry about the cost. Okay, now it's your turn to complete your assignment on this.